favorite months because fall is my favorite season and Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. And October is also Dysautonomia Awareness Month. So I wanted to post a little tips and tricks video since I have been dealing with POTS for like 10 years now. So these are just some of the things that help me get to standing some days. So yeah, thanks so much for coming to watch, and I'd love to hear your tips and tricks down in the comments. But I'll just go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing I ever learned about for POTS were compression garments. So after I had my first tilt table test, the doctor came to visit me in recovery and he was like, you know what you're gonna do when you go home? And I was like, yeah, take a nap? Like, you just tortured me all morning. And he was like, no, you're gonna go to a biker store and buy a pair of biker pants. So I didn't know biker stores were a thing, and I didn't know biker pants were a thing, but they are. So we went to a bike store near my house, and I told the guy, like, this is gonna sound bizarre, but I'm sick and my doctor told me to come here, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. So it was to get compression pants. So these are the ones I got. They are from a brand called Zeet, Z-E-E-T, and they are the Ultra 2.0. So you can see it's full pants. They're extremely thick. I don't know if you can see that. And extremely tight. So this is like the size for a Barbie. So they stretch a good bit, but they're still so tight on you. And what compression is going to do for POTS is, instead of the blood pooling in your feet when you stand up, it is going to help push the blood up where it's supposed to be. So it's kind of like an external helper for your autonomic system that isn't functioning right. So it can help your body do what it should already be doing, but is not doing. So compression is huge in POTS dysautonomia land. A lot of people wear compression socks. I don't find that they're useful, honestly, at all for me, because they just kind of push the blood to my knees. Whereas pants, these come up quite high over my belly button. So it's really compressing almost to my heart. And I find that very useful. So these are pretty expensive, I'd say, but I have had this pair since 2015 and they're still great and good to go. They hold up really well. They're also antimicrobial, so they stand up to, what the body puts them through, and they're easily washable. They are, however, very challenging to get on and take off. They are so tight, they're almost impossible to put on by myself. And I'm wearing them when I have bad days. So on a bad day, they truly are impossible to get on myself. They're so, so tight. However, they do really help make me feel better. I do only wear them when I am having really bad days. If I wear them just on a normal day, they would make my legs feel like they were falling asleep. So they really do their job very well, and I highly recommend those. I love them. I have 2 pairs now, and they're just a really great tool, a really great compression tool. My second tip would be liquid IV. I threw the box away, or the bag. So this is what it looks like. There you go. So here's one packet of it. I like the passion fruit one. They have like watermelon, tangerine, some other flavors. So this is a hydration multiplier is what they call it. So it's supposed to be 3 times the hydration of like 1 bottle of water. So you mix it with 16 ounces of water. I don't think it doesn't taste terrible. It doesn't taste, as good as like Propel or something. But I really do think it does work. So on the back, it has the nutrition facts, and this packet has 510 milligrams of sodium, which is like 22% of your daily value. So it really is going to help get your like electrolytes and sodium levels up. So I really do love this. I think it's kind of expensive. You can buy it on Amazon, and you can do like the subscribe to it, so it'll send it to you so often. It's like $20-some for a packet, like 18 to 20 packs of it. I tend to use that first thing in the morning when I need the most hydration, and then the rest of the day I drink like Propeller water. Propel is also another really great tool, or Gatorade. I don't like Gatorade very much, so I tend to stick with Propel, and I love Propel. It just makes drinking so much water a smidge easier, and has some of the electrolytes in there as well. And I drink a ton of that. So hydration is super important with POTS, but there are these cool tools like Liquid IV to make that a little bit easier to reach your goals. The next thing kind of relates to that, but it would just be a regular IV. So unfortunately, sometimes I just get too far gone and there's nothing I can do at home. And the only thing that's going to make me feel better is an IV. So I will have to go to the ER. I finally gotten to the point where if I go to the ER, I'm like, listen, I've done this before. Please just give me an IV. Most of the time, they don't really even fight me anymore. They just do it. So IV hydration is really great because when you're drinking water or whatever, it has to like pass through your digestive tract, where the IV kind of just goes straight where it needs to be. So an IV is a really quick way to start feeling better. So if you're having, a really rough day and you can't recuperate by yourself and there's nothing you can do, unfortunately, kind of like a last resort for me at least was to go to the ER and get an IV. I haven't had to do that since before COVID. And I know it's not easy to go to not easy to go to the ER anymore, especially with something like this. You would be like way less priority. So it's important to make sure you're doing everything you need to do to stay hydrated and full of sodium so your body doesn't get to a place where you're at that level. The next tip, and I'm very much recommend realizing and recognizing that I am coming from a place of extreme privilege that I can put this on my tips. But my next one was my iWatch. I actually just got it a couple months ago. I thought they were the dumbest things ever, to be honest. I was like, that is the ultra luxury good. Like, you don't need a phone on your wrist. I thought they were so dumb. And I like boycotted them. And everyone who wore them, I was like, ugh. But my physical therapist recommended I get one. So I did, doctor's orders, and I'm obsessed. I love it. My husband got one. We got my mom and my dad one for Christmas. But it truly is so helpful medical-wise, because the one I got, I have the newest version, because it has technology where it can monitor some of your vitals. Now, granted, this is not hospital grade monitoring, but it does pretty well, I think, because I've compared it against several other things. So first off, it has a pulse ox on it. So you can see here, it will monitor your pulse ox. And I've compared this with like handheld ones, and they're always pretty much the same. It will do an ECG. So, I'm sorry. If I would hold my finger right here, you can see it tracking. Let me see if it'll work. Oh, it's not going to work because I'm not wearing it. But anyway, so to kind of show you like what your heart rhythm's looking like, it's not going to diagnose a heart attack or something, but a little bit helpful just to see that. My favorite part, and what I use it for 99.9% of the time, is it has a heart rate monitor on. So it's not going to track because I'm not wearing it, but you can see at the top it will tell you my current rate. So it tells me that 10 minutes ago mine was like 120. It tells you where my resting heart rate is 97 today, and my walking average is 140. And I just find it really useful to kind of track trends. Before I was wearing this, I'd wake up and I'd be having a really hard morning, and I wouldn't necessarily know why. But now if I'm having a hard morning, I can look down and be like, oh, my heart rate's 140 while I'm sitting here. Like, no wonder I feel bad. So I just find it kind of useful to see what's going on inside a little bit. I know there are quite cheaper brands, like Fitbit has a brand, and there are some watches online for like $20 that you can buy. So my next one relates to that, and it is my medical alert bracelet. But somebody on Etsy makes one of these, so it can go on your iWatch. It was only a couple dollars. It's engraved in there. And I just think it's super useful. I added on here like my name, what's wrong, things to avoid. Like I can't have spinal taps. I have really bad allergies to antibiotics. But at the bottom, I just put see iWatch medical ID. And then if you set up the medical ID on your watch. So I think that's kind of useful. Granted, like I know some emergency response personnel are not trained to look for those always. Or if they are, they're looking for like a very obvious medical alert bracelet. So I do understand that there's like risks for getting a more aesthetically pleasing one. But it is pretty prevalent on my wrist, right on the side. So I really do like that. And I like that it goes right on my iWatch because I've had other medical alert bracelets in the past and, I would forget to put it on or whatever. So yeah, I love that. And I think it's useful to have that on for my POTS and for some of my other problems. Next one is more a physical trait. If I am ever standing upright, I am never standing still. I'm either leaning on something or I'm like hunched over or I'm squatting or swaying. Doing those things is helping the blood keep circulating, and I think those are really useful tools if you have to stand somewhere like in a line or you're out and about in a crowd. I think it's really useful to keep the blood pumping as much as you can. So just kind of like doing anything you can, like I'll pick up my legs and like bend my knees and stuff just to get some blood flowing a little bit. And it seems to help and buy me a little bit more time upright. And then food-based options would kind of be my next tip and trick. I think I covered in my last video, really eating things in the middle of the grocery store. And what I mean by that is like the processed food, which is not great to put in your body. And long term, I'm not really sure what it's going to do to me. But they are pretty good ways to get sodium in. If I'm feeling really bad, I'll have like an emergency freezer meal, frozen food, so much sodium in it. So I do try and get my sodium as naturally as possible, like table salt or things like that, or through my drinks. But if I'm having a really bad day, I'll pull out like a freezer meal or a bag of chips or something like that, which has a ton of sodium. A little bit healthier of a way is charcuterie, which I love. So like cheeses and cured meats, things in brine like pickles, olives, those are all full of sodium. So I mean, again, not as helpful health-wise, healthy-wise, but if you have to have salt to live, you're gonna have to do what you have to do. So the next tip is also for when you're just at your limit, like there is nothing else you can do for it. The thing I found that works the best is laying down flat and then having your feet and legs propped up on a wall. So you're kind of like, here's your body, here's your legs. So that helps to drain the blood, I don't know, I'm not a science person, but the blood can kind of make it back to where it's supposed to be. So if I'm ever having a really bad day, that's the position that you'll find me in, as like or as upside down as possible, trying to force blood to my brain and stuff. They do have salt tablets that you can take. I took them for a good while. I took pure sodium tablets, so it literally looks like a pile of salt in a pill form. I found them very, very hard to take. They made me throw up. They taste like putting a glob of salt down your mouth, so I found this really, really challenging. Okay, and kind of the last one that I had, again, this is, there are many different versions of this, but doing some light exercise is extremely useful. My physical therapist started me on a program to help my POTS. So Children's Hospital kind of created this POTS pretty intense workout program. It is 6 months with 2 pre-months to try and get you into shape for the 6 months. So it's like an 8-month program, probably takes a little bit longer than 8 months. But each day you are doing a specific workout at a targeted rate, at a targeted heart rate. So before you start, you need to take your like resting heart rate, you do a bunch of math to figure out what your target heart rate is. So my target heart rate was like 140 to 150. And so then when I do my exercise, it would tell me, okay, you do a 5-minute warm up, you do 3 minutes at your target heart rate, and then you go back to your warm up, or your like cool down for 5 minutes. I think that's how it starts. I think the first day starts at 3 minutes at the target heart rate, and then just keeps working up from there. There are a lot of days where it'll be warm up for 5 minutes, target heart rate for 5 minutes, cool down for 2 minutes, target heart rate for 5 minutes, cool down. So it's doing kind of a pattern like that of up and down heart rates. And what the goal is, you know, right now when my heart rate is at 150, when I'm just walking around, my body's like, we don't know what to do, pass out, save us. So this is trying to retrain my body by like going up and down and up and down. Like, okay, we're up, but we can fix it. We can do this. You can make it through. Okay, we're up, but you can fix this. You can do it. Like, I'm just trying to show your body that it can respond in a different manner than fainting. So right now I am just starting month 3, or my first actual month. It took me probably like 4 or 5 months to get through the first 2 months. By the end of the first 2 pre-months, you are doing like a 5-minute warm-up, 30 minutes at your target heart rate, and a 5-minute cool down. I still have not really mastered that. It's quite hard. Last week I stopped at 22 minutes, and my physical therapist told me we don't want to be doing it until we get to symptoms. You want to do it up until that point and then stop and stay back at wherever you were. So I probably should have stayed at like 18 minutes until I can successfully move on without having symptoms. So I guess I am still in the pre-months, but I am working really hard at it. I try and do the workouts like 3 times a week, and I'm hoping that that can help my body kind of cope with the POTS stuff. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a ton of change yet, but we're thinking that what that might show is that maybe my POTS symptoms right now aren't coming from a cardiovascular place. Maybe they're coming from like a CCI-Chiari place. So maybe the surgery will help them. That's my biggest wish, is that this surgery will help with my POTS symptoms, which I know a lot of people it doesn't, but I am praying that it will. So the workouts, they want you to do them kind of recumbent, like as flat as possible. So when I'm at my physical therapist, I can do it on like a seated incline bike. You could be doing like rowing or swimming. I do it on my Peloton downstairs, so I'm seated. And then as you move along, you could be doing, you know, like on a stand-up bike, or but you want to kind of maintain, you know, as much of like a laying seated position as possible at the start. And on the Peloton, I don't follow the classes because they don't make sense for me. I just do like ride by myself and turn a TV show on or something and watch, because the classes, they're trying to do their own heart rates, and that's not applicable to what I'm working on. But yeah, I think that's a really good tool, and I believe it is online if you searched like Children's Hospital POTS exercise plan or something like that. So I'm hopeful that, you know, in the long term, that will really help out and help me manage my symptoms or flare-ups of POTS and kind of retrain my body to what it should be doing. But happy October. If you guys have any POTS tips, I would love to hear those, because my POTS is raging out of control right now. So send me those, and I would be so appreciative, and have a great rest of your